Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of What's Your Story? Tonight we are sitting down with our friend and neighbor, what is it, 3 houses up?
Yeah,
Andrea Rolleri. So, welcome to our show.
thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You had a long commute today.
Yes, I did. It was a lot of steps.
So, we usually start our interviews by asking folks where they came from and how did you get to Kennebunkport?
Okay, well, I was born in Connecticut
Mm-hmm.
and have always been a New England person in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And back in 2015, we settled on a house here in Kennebunkport. But the rationale for it was, for years, my husband and I, we would come up and kind of be in New England. And my father had one of the largest lobster pounds in Connecticut, commercial lobster
Oh,
pound.
wow.
And so when I was growing up, he would talk fondly of his trips to Maine and all the way up to Halifax,
Mm-hmm.
looking for sources.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like this image in the background. And then, we were living in South Jersey. And there was a point when we just said, why are we here? We aren't from here. And we wanted to head north. I did. And so did my husband, thank goodness. So he
Yeah.
did move with me.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes, always a good thing. And that we started looking all over from Portland all the way up to West Bath. And then we
Okay.
came down with friends to visit in Kennebunkport. They had never been here. We visited and then just fell in love with the town, the
Mm-hmm.
walkability, the
Yeah.
charm, the buildings. I mean, just all of that.
Yeah.
And like the idea of living in a community where you could kind of get to know everybody.
So you were before you moved up here, you were doing some really interesting work. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, yes, we have, my husband and I have our own business, design business. We met in college.
Mm-hmm.
And we both went to the University of Bridgeport in the College of Engineering, and our
Okay.
major was industrial design. So part of that, when you're in industrial design, you have to learn for your portfolio to do furniture, transportation, product design, and exhibit design was one of those elements.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually started out interning at General Electric doing products, houseware products,
Okay.
clocks, and hair dryers. And after a year of that, I could number 1 to 12 freehand really well from all the clocks. But I thought, I just don't want to do that. And then
Mhm.
my first official job was in Detroit. And I worked for a tractor trailer design firm, West White Motors.
Wow.
And they did farm equipment and tractor trailer trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was when, this is early 70s, and Detroit was sort of collapsing. So I bounced from that job that I was laid off from
Mm-hmm.
to Philadelphia and started working at the Science Museum in Philadelphia, the Franklin Institute.
Wow.
And it's all based on, from that point on, designing exhibits and
Okay.
developing exhibits.
Okay. So it's sort of like what I would think about as a marketing campaign. Like when you're thinking about how do I display this so that people will come, or is that like way off the
No,
mark?
it's not quite way off, but designing exhibits is you sit down and it's very hard to always explain to people because people will say, are you the people that put the stuff on the pedestals and make the labels? And we say, no, it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
But you work with curators
Mm-hmm.
and you take their content, you develop the stories, you work on the educational objectives, communication objectives, but then what we like to say is we develop a visitor experience.
Okay.
So what we do is everything from the sign out in front to the lighting in the room
Wow.
to the things that you touch and do.
Mm-hmm.
It could be hands-on science for kids.
Yeah.
Another way I've described it is like we have gone for science museums and children's museums and designed those little items that they manipulate with their hands and
Mm-hmm.
break.
Mm-hmm.
And they're learning about physics or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's more encompassing because it's literally from the moment you walk into a gallery or a museum to you exit, we're involved with all of that.
That must make you feel good when, like, when there's an opening and
It does. When
yeah.
it's over, it's kind of like you go to that opening, you see people enjoying the exhibit,
Mhm.
and then you kind of fade into the sunset, and then you work on the next one.
And you work on the
So
next
so I
one,
mean,
yeah.
we've done everything from concepts for children's museums to designing children's gardens that
Mhm.
teach science, a presidential library. Um,
Which one?
Ford,
Ah!
Gerald Ford,
Oh, fun.
that years ago, and a music museum, Experience Music Project in Seattle. So
Yeah.
our work is kind of all over the country.
And do you when you're working all over the country, do you have to go and stay at that location for a while until it opens, or is it a lot of back and forth,
It's
or
it's probably a lot of back and forth because in the beginning we'll do a lot of reading
Mhm.
to kind of absorb the subject material
Yeah.
so that we have a good understanding of it because we're working with the educators, the
Mhm.
curators at a museum.
Mhm.
And then you'll often go to the site to take it in. For instance, we did a visitor center for the National Park Service on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Well, we
Wow.
would go down there and we would travel the parkway to all the sites so we could take in everything that they needed to
Mm.
include in making you love that place when
Wow.
you, as the
Okay.
visitor, go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And often we work with architects. In that case, we partnered with an architect. They designed the building, but they designed it with us helping on the programming so that it worked for visitors inside.
Okay. Have you ever had to work with anyone that you were going in this direction and they wanted you to go in that direction? Or has it always been a nice?
Um,
I would think that'd be a little frustrating.
well, it would be, and it can be. After the initial arm wrestling in the beginning,
Mhm.
the it's sometimes visitors will not visitors, museums will have a strong idea of what they want visitors to um, be told.
Okay. Yep.
And you have to accept the fact that you can't just force information
Mhm.
on visitors.
Yep.
And other times we've had to be able to explain that the content is for the public.
Ah, okay.
And so sometimes,
Yeah.
what they find passionate about
Right.
their objects or their story,
Yeah.
you have to be able to
Who's the
be
audience?
right. Who is the
Yeah.
audience? We
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
the conduit to
Right.
explain that.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes
So
sense. And hopefully they see it your way.
yes, yes.
So you moved here and you got involved with the Historical Society. So you're on their board, is that
Yes,
right?
I'm actually the president
The
of the board
president of
now.
the board. And so what's happening over there these days?
Well, we've got a good group, and one of the things that's really interesting to me when I joined the historical was to realize that nobody knows what the historical society does. And I say that very sincerely because it's not a museum
Right.
that trots objects out and does it, and we're not kind of like a library archive where it's just documents.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also not like a preservation authority that,
Mm-hmm.
preserves buildings and puts them on the National Register.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a way all of those things.
Right.
In other words, we have a collection. We collect the archives. We have genealogies.
We have
We
artifacts.
have
A lot of
some
artifacts.
artifacts,
Yep.
yeah. And so we're all of those things. And the other misconception, I think, is that a lot of people that I've met think we're part of the town,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that the town government,
Mm-hmm.
that we're an office and it's like, no, actually the town has nothing to do with us. It's a full volunteer organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that is kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm. And the grounds that, taking care of the grounds, like all of those kinds of things. It's sort of like here, we are not a town department. And so when there's, the lights go out or some pump needs to be replaced, that's on all of you to make sure that, things are being taken care
Oh,
of.
yes.
Yeah.
Because we're the caretakers of Knott House.
Yep.
We're the caretakers of the
Mm.
schoolhouse, and Pasco is center,
Yeah.
that campus. That is where the archives are kept.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, getting objects and recording them and preserving them for everybody in the town.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a sense, that's the town's record, the
Right.
past and will be for the
Right.
future.
Right.
So it would be great to get younger people interested,
Mm-hmm.
because I think if I hear one more time, oh, the Hysterical Society, and you want to say, yeah, like that's the first time I've heard that. But it would, we're working with a junior board now to
Yeah.
try to get high school students
Yeah.
and younger people to realize the value of preserving their community
Yeah.
and preserving what's here, what made us fall in love with
Right.
Kennebunkport.
Right. Right. Exactly. I know that when I was working on our history book, the 2-volume set that Joyce Butler wrote for us, my job was to go to the Historical Society, to the brick store, to a couple of private collections, and gather the maps, the images, quotes, all kinds of different things. We would sit down together and she would say, I need this. She'd make a list of the things
Mm-hmm.
that she needed. I would take all my equipment and go down to the schoolhouse, and I would sit in the back and scan things. I can't imagine, not having a place to be able to find those materials. That book would not be that book without the Historical Society. We were able to get so much information from there, and it was so well organized, and so it's a treasure. It's a real treasure. So,
Well, it's great.
um,
It's very heartening to hear you say that, because we endeavor to try and
mhm,
communicate that,
mhm,
and it's our archives, all of that material, photographs, scanning. I mean,
yeah,
again, it's done by
right,
volunteers.
right.
So we're always looking for people.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. And so when someone is working on, okay, so say I bought X house here on Main Street, and I want to know who owned it, who built it, who owned it originally. Would I make an appointment? How would I do that?
Well, you can make an appointment. We do charge for research time
Okay.
if you're a member.
Uh-oh, I owe you a lot of money.
Okay, we're going to be collecting on that debt. But if you're a member, we'll do discount and sometimes do it complimentary depending
Okay.
on the level of membership.
Yeah.
But again, because we pay salary
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
our historian,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where you would come down, make an appointment, we'd have your address, we can do some initial research, some you can do on your own,
Yeah.
and then provide you with that information so that, you can find out the current, the most recent owner, and then also all the history going back in time as to who built it, anything else around it,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
it's haunted.
Yeah. Ooh, like to know that. Are you still doing walking tours?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's so many people that I think when they do come to Kennebunkport, they love the architecture, and having somebody explain that, just in these few blocks here, you see the little signs on the house that say when it was built and who lived there, or maybe who built the house. So you used to have a pamphlet called "Strolling the Port"
Hmm.
or something like that. Is that
Yes, we have a pamphlet, and we're actually updating it with more current
great?
information.
Yeah.
We like to believe that we're the most authentic
Mm-hmm.
walking tour
Mm-hmm.
that occurs.
Yep.
And again, you can get a ticket to do a walking tour,
Yeah.
so that we'll take you all around the port.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I also think some people might not realize is in 1976, the Park Service registered this whole area down here in the village. And it's part of a national registration site. And it's the largest collection in place of 18th, early 19th century architecture.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that I think
Mm-hmm.
make people become attracted to the area and what
Yeah.
they see.
Yeah.
And that's also something that we can impart on the
Mm-hmm.
tour.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I mean, just looking at the houses here, people really take pride in making sure that they, you can. I've seen it in the years that I've been here at the library, changes, but in a good, in a good way, and making sure that even like historically, the color of the paint is,
It
people take it
trying
seriously.
Yes, trying to be true to
So
it, because
yeah.
I think sometimes people fear a historical society because they think, "Oh my gosh, these are the people that aren't gonna let me do anything to my
Hmm.
house."
Hmm.
And it isn't
No.
on a register, it's not
Yeah.
on that, but it's the idea of preserving it and
Yeah.
keeping comparable aesthetics. In other words, that's what makes this area unique.
Hmm.
That's what attracted us to it, and that's one of the things that, to your point, the sense of pride, I think, is good because it keeps people from just knocking everything down.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the more something becomes knocked down and rebuilt, the less authentic it
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
and then you just become like any other place.
Right, right. So so you have a lot of things coming up. Prelude is coming up, a busy time of the year. Are there any special things that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I would say that our gala is on the first Thursday this December. It's the
Okay.
day before the official first of Prelude.
Yeah.
Tickets are on sale. Anybody wants to get them? We need your help.
How would I do that? How would I get a ticket?
You can go online to
Okay.
the
To the
Historical Society site
Yeah.
and purchase a ticket now for the
Okay.
gala.
Perfect.
But it's a great event. The volunteers over the last few weeks have been decorating trees in the house and decorating the house and getting it all ready for Prelude. So it's
Yeah.
been sort of pandemonium over there of
Okay.
bows and ornaments and garland flying everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're working our way along, and it's a good party
Yeah.
because it's there'll be hors d'oeuvres and drinks and
Is there a
singing and
dress
fun.
code?
I would just say smart casual.
Okay.
It's
I like
not
that.
it's not heavy cocktail
Right.
attire, but festive.
Okay.
Definitely
Okay.
festive.
Oh, good. And then the gift shop, will the gift shop be
The
open
gift
during
shop will
Prelude?
be open during
Okay.
Prelude.
Yeah.
And then actually this year we're having a makers fair, and the tent will be set up on the lawn, and a selection of craftsmen
Yeah.
will have tables there on Friday and on Saturday so people can come in and shop
Ah,
in the
wonderful.
artisans market.
Oh, that's so great.
And then, Mrs. Claus, she will
Okay.
be over at the Townhouse School.
Okay.
And there'll also be another event that people can sign up for, which is cookie decorating
Oh, that's so
with their
great.
kids.
That's nice. Do you know when that is?
Now I'm going to embarrass myself. I
No,
think
no,
it's on
no.
Saturday.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. One other thing that I wanted to ask you about your monthly concerts. So
Yes.
those are at
Townhouse
the
School.
townhouse school, and you don't have to buy a ticket or anything. Is it a donation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So if I see the sign when I drive by, and it might be Bob Dylan, it might be um, Prince, it might, it's all over the map. I love that there's this eclectic mix of musicians here in town, and they get together and they play different
Dana brings in
things.
different people, and they do different
And you're talking about Dana
groups.
Pearson?
Yes.
Okay.
And he
Yep.
and he does. He'll bring in an associate. Like this last week, they did John Denver,
Okay.
which was a sellout. I
Hmm.
mean, I never knew John Denver was that much of a sellout, but it was tremendous.
Well, and I have a feeling because of, with the election, everybody needed a little John
The
Denver.
little soothing,
Right.
something very
I'm
soothing.
not saying either way, but just, I think it was probably a good week for John Denver.
And often they'll
So,
do a 50-50 raffle, which has
okay.
become great fun.
Yeah.
So, and it's you can buy a ticket at the door,
Yeah.
or donate, and it's depending on how
That's
it's set
so
up.
great. And you started those concerts like during the pandemic, and they've been
Yeah.
they've been going on. That's awesome.
Well, and we've had I have to do a shout out to our executive director, Kristen Height, because
Mhm.
she's endeavored to do everything we can
Yep.
to make awareness to what the historical society
Right.
does.
Right.
That we aren't necessarily just a place where things are stored like a giant closet.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, and it shows. I mean, when people can come in and tour the Knot House, tour the Bush, the museum that you have, and then even going up to on North Street to the Pasco Center, and I mean, it's really a thriving. I think that I think everything has its ups and downs, but right now I think you're all working very, very hard. You can see it.
Well, and
So,
we're hoping now to also do more with the schools, with
yep,
Consolidated,
yep,
where kids can come over,
yep,
literally walk over to the house, and we can do a program there.
yep.
So,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
great.
we're trying to nurture those young minds,
Yeah.
and say, hey, have you ever thought about history and being a historian?
And what do they say to that?
They say, what?
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, we have a yearly project with the fourth graders, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
some are so into it. I think there are some kids that are really, really into it, but it's not for everybody.
Well, and I think that
So,
history is always thought of, I think, as being something dry. And I
right.
and I and I smile because in the business of
Hmm.
exhibit design, our goal for all these museums is to make things interesting.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean, we just literally opening on Thursday of this week is an exhibit we just finished for the Computer History Museum, and it's chatbots decoded.
Oh,
And the
wow.
subject material is about artificial intelligence
Okay.
and chatbots. And I don't know if people, young people think, oh, that's history, but it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
part of the
yeah.
computer history
Yes.
legacy.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah,
think they sometimes don't realize.
yeah, yeah. Huh. So when you're not working, what do you and your husband Dennis like to do?
I would say, well, we still are traveling up and down the coast of Maine and
Yeah,
in New England.
yeah.
We we're perpetually working in the yard. I'm not sure if we enjoy it, but we're perpetually working in the yard, and it's been just a lot of exploratory work.
Yep.
And then we both now are exploring doing our own artwork
Mm-hmm.
because for 40 years we have had to constantly draw things for
Yeah,
other people
yeah,
to
yeah,
communicate ideas
yeah.
and always with a purpose. And now, for the first time, we could actually be using our skills to do something that we just imagine ourselves,
Mm-hmm,
as
mm-hmm.
opposed to, imagining a gallery, for a Egyptian collection or
Right,
something.
right. It's fascinating work, though.
And we've
Um,
traveled, I mean, the country with the different projects. I
mm-hmm.
mean, we've been in most of the states for
Yep,
different projects,
yep.
and even one international in the we had in the United Arab Emirates.
Wow.
They were trying to design the first visitor center modeled after a Park Service visitor center.
Oh, wow.
And it was in Al Ain, which is right on the border of Oman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very interesting to deal with the difference in the culture,
Yeah.
and also a park that is in a place that in the summer would be like visiting the surface of the sun
Mm-hmm.
because it was so
Wow.
hot.
Wow. How do people find you?
Uh,
Because this is a true niche that you have.
Well, there's actually a lot of us to do this work. We wish we would compete with less, but it's our work has always been word of mouth.
Okay.
I mean, a little bit of advertising, but
Yeah.
word of mouth,
Yeah.
because we just we always wanted to keep ourselves in that boutique size
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that it wouldn't grow so great that as principals, both
Yeah.
Dennis and I being the firm principals,
Yeah.
we would end up just being salespeople and not doing the work.
Okay.
So we modeled it after
Yeah.
the fact that it was our work, our passion,
Mm-hmm.
and creativity. And we would make sure we weren't overstepping
Yep.
and suddenly taking on more than we could do to be sincere to the projects.
Yeah. Well, that's well. Continue doing great work. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for being with us tonight, Andy. And
Thank you.
good luck with your gala. We hope people will buy tickets.
Yes, yes.
So,
Please do. Please do.
And hang out during Prelude. So really, we love being your neighbor. So thank you very much for all you do for us.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad you
So,
invited me.
so, and thank you all for being here, and thanks to our uh, producer, Mike Kelly, for doing our show tonight. And we hope to see you next time on What's Your Story?